Welcome to SQE1 preparation, criminal practice, detention clock and review clocks by Street Lawyer, helping you to pass first time. The FLK criminal law and practice states this: rights of a suspect being detained by the police for questioning, reviews and detention time limits under PACE 1984 Code C. So question, what key knowledge is covered in this class? It's to understand the detention clock, the maximum period a suspect can be detained before charge for a summary only, either way, and indictable only offences. And to understand when the detention clock starts and understand the criteria to extend that detention clock, that period of detention before charge. And also to understand the review clock, when the review of a suspect's detention should take place and who carries out the review of the detention of the suspect. Now, there are three key terms that you need to be familiar with. The period the police can keep a suspect detained before charge at the police station is often referred to as the detention clock. That's the first term. The period of reviews of a suspect's detention before charge is often referred to as the review clock. That's the second term you need to be familiar with. And to know when the maximum periods of detention before charge and when the review must take place, you need to be familiar with the idea of the relevant time. The relevant time differs between the detention clock and the review clock, and that's the third term you need to be familiar with. By way of an SQE1 exam tip, SBAQ questions expect SQE students to know when the detention clock begins and ends, that is the period the police can keep a suspect detained before charge at the police station, who may and may not extend detention clock, and you need to know about the rank of the officer when looking at an SBAQ question. When the first or next review of detention, that is the review clock, is, who may and may not carry out the review of a suspect's detention. Again, you need to consider looking at the rank of the officer. To answer these questions on the detention clock and review clock, it's also important to know when the clocks begin, the relevant time. Now look at the series of test your knowledge questions. Test your knowledge question 1 is about Tony. He has been arrested on suspicion of GBH and arrives at the police station at 17:45 hours, and his detention is authorised at 1800 hours. A solicitor attends the police station to represent and advise Tony prior to his first interview. Tony's concerned about whether he will be released in time for him to go to pick his children at school tomorrow, and he asks the solicitor how long the police can detain him for. The question is which four of the following pieces of advice are correct and which one is false? Now look at this test your knowledge question very carefully. Question 2. Tony is arrested at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday under suspicion of causing grievous bodily harm with intent against a woman. He's brought to the police station arriving at 11:30 p.m. and his detention is authorised at 11:45 p.m. The police investigations are ongoing. There are searches to be undertaken, witnesses to be located and medical evidence to be obtained. There will be a delay in obtaining the medical evidence as the woman is undergoing extensive surgery. The investigating officers anticipate that they will need to use the maximum powers of detention available to the police before charge and may need to seek a warrant of further detention from the magistrate's court. Here's the question. Until what time can Tony be detained before charge without a warrant of further detention? Is it A, B, C, D or E? Now look at this test your knowledge question. Question 3. When does the initial maximum detention before charge end if Tony is arrested at home on Monday at 15:30 and arrives at the police station 30 minutes later at 1600 hours and the detention is authorised 30 minutes later by the custody officer at 16:30 hours? What's the answer? Is it A, B or C? Now finally look at this test your knowledge question. Question 4. Tony has been arrested on suspicion of common assault. He arrives at the police station at 9:30 hours and his detention is authorised by the custody officer at 9:45 hours. Which of the following statements in relation to Tony's detention is true? A. Tony's period of detention prior to charge should not exceed 24 hours unless appropriately authorised by an officer of the rank of superintendent or above. Or is it B, Tony's first review must be carried out by an officer of at least the rank of custody officer by 1545 hours that day? And C, Tony's first review must be carried out by an officer of at least the rank of inspector by 1545 hours that day. Now, all of these questions are answered at the end of the class, but let's just review the concept of the detention clock and then later the review clock. So the first question is can you summarize how the detention clock works, assuming the suspect is arrested for an indictable offence and the criteria is met? And you can see that slide there. Assume the arrested suspect arrives at the police station on Monday at 1600 hours, and this is like a worked out example. The initial maximum period is authorised by the custody officer, and that's for 24 hours from the time of arrival. The period of detention before charge therefore ends on Tuesday at 1600 hours. The period can be extended by 12 hours authorised by the superintendent, and that will make it therefore 36 hours from the time of arrival. The period of detention before charge therefore ends on Wednesday at 0400 hours in the morning. The period can then be extended by the magistrate's court up to a maximum of 36 hours, and that will take the suspect's detention up to 72 hours from the time of arrival. The period of detention therefore before charge ends at on Thursday at 1600 hours, and then the finally period can be extended by the magistrate's court by up to 24 hours, and that will take the maximum detention before charge to 96 hours from the time of arrival. Therefore, the period of detention before charge ends on Friday at 1600 hours, which is basically 4 days. So let's go into this into a little bit more detail. So question, how long can the police keep a suspect in custody? Section 41 of PACE refers to a person shall not be kept in police detention for more than 24 hours without being charged. That's referred to as the initial maximum period of detention. The 24 hours begins from the relevant time, and this differs depending on the type of suspect. So you've got A, in case of a suspect arrested away from the police station, the relevant time is generally the time when the suspect arrives at the first police station they are taken to. In case of a volunteer attending the police station who is then arrested at the police station, the relevant time is the time of their arrest, and that's at the police station. And C, in case of a person who attends a police station to answer street bail granted under section 38, the time when they arrive at the police station. So the question then is can the maximum period of a suspect's detention before charge be extended? And the answer is yes, an additional 12 hours on top of the 24 hours from the relevant time if the criteria is met. And then look at the criteria. Authorization must be given by an officer of the rank of superintendent or above. And the superintendent may only extend the period if they have reasonable grounds for believing that A, the detention of the person without charge is necessary to secure or preserve evidence relating to an offence for which he is under arrest or to obtain such evidence by questioning him. B, an offence for which he is under arrest is an indictable offence, and remember this includes either way offences. And C, the investigation is being conducted diligently and expeditiously. Question, can the suspect's detention before charge be further extended? And the answer is yes, known as court warrants for further detention, up to a period of 36 hours on top of the 36 hours already granted by the superintendent. That means there's a total now of 72 hours from the relevant time if certain conditions are met, and if the court is satisfied A, the detention without charge is necessary to secure or preserve evidence relating to an offence for which he is under arrest or to obtain such evidence by questioning him. B, an offence for which he is under arrest is an indictable offence. Remember, this includes either way offences but does not include summary only offences. And C, the investigation is being conducted diligently and expeditiously. Question, can a suspect's detention before charge be extended beyond the 72 hours? In exceptional cases, a magistrate's court can grant a further detention before charge up to 24 hours on the same grounds as per section 44 of PACE. This means a suspect can be detained without charge for a maximum 96 hours or 4 days from the relevant time. After this time ends, the suspect must either be charged or released. Question, can a suspect be detained at the police station beyond 96 hours? No, if the suspect is not charged and not arrested for a T case. And yes, if the suspect is charged with any offence, remanded into police custody and refused police bail to appear at the next magistrate's court. So remember that. So now let's return back to those test your knowledge questions. Look at test your knowledge question 1. Read it for yourself and then check the next slide for the answer. The answer is all are correct except option E. There are circumstances when the person can be detained beyond 96 hours, that is, if they are charged and refused police bail, and then they're there to appear at the magistrate's court. Look at test your knowledge question 2. Again, pause the video if you want and look at the answer. The answer is D. Now look at test your knowledge question 3. Again, pause the video, read it for yourself and look at the answer at the bottom. Now I want to move the class onto another issue. Question, are the police required to carry out review of detention? The answer is yes. This is known as the review clock, and it is mandatory on the police to carry out periodic reviews to ensure the grounds on which detention were authorised are still applicable. Now check this slide out, and it's a question about the review clock. Can you summarise the review clock? And this is contained in section 40 of PACE. The first review should take place within 6 hours from the detention being authorised, and look at who carries out the review. It's carried out by an officer not below the rank of inspector to determine whether the detention is still necessary. And then look at when the second review takes place. That's within 9 hours from the first review, and again it's an officer not below the rank of inspector to determine whether the detention is still necessary. And then what you'll notice is that there are subsequent reviews shall be at intervals of not more than 9 hours. So you can see how the review clock operates. Now finally, look at this test your knowledge question 4. Pause the video and read the answer, which is at the bottom. Remember, watch all the videos in the SQE Prep Criminal Practice series. Understand the functioning legal knowledge being examined by reading the SRA website for yourself. Revise from a good SQE book. Attend and participate in class. Prepare Q&A flashcards. Practice as many SBAQs as possible. Subscribe to Community Legal Education. Put your notification on so you don't miss out on more SQE Prep videos. Hope you found this class useful. See you at the next class, and thank you for watching.